Okay. We are in Daf Kuf Yud Beis Amid Beis. Today's Daf is Kuf Yud Gimel 113, and we are still at the end of Kuf Yud Beis Amid Beis 112b. The Gemara is in the midst of a lot of advice that Chachamim gave their children or other Chachamim, statements that they told them what they should be careful about. And in the midst, we had a statement from Rabbi Tzvi Fischer to Rebbe in regards to not standing unclothed in front of a candle and not having marital relations in front of a candle. And so the Gemara continues with that. Tana Rabbanan. Somebody has relations on a bed that there's also a child sleeping there, that child can become paralyzed. That's only if the child isn't at least a year old. If the child's a year old, not a problem. That's only if the child is sleeping towards the end of the bed. If the child's at the head of the bed, also not a problem. And it's also only a problem if he didn't put his hand on it. But he put his hand on it, on the child, also it's not a problem. So this seems not to be some sort of spiritual thing or punishment. This seems to be just a practical thing. I mean, you can, if there's a child that's that young sleeping there, you can injure the child, and so either having a hand on the child or the child being closer to the head of the bed, not a problem. That's what some interpret that this as. He also said to Rabbi Tzvi, also said, don't go out at night alone. The Tani we learned, don't walk out at night, and the night of Tuesday night going into Wednesday, and the night of Friday night going into Shabbos. So those nights you shouldn't walk out. And again, we saw the same thing earlier. Don't drink water that night. What's the reason? And we mentioned briefly there that some of the commentators point out that those would be times that couples are together. Friday night, because Shabbos is a part of Oneg, a husband and wife would be together as a part of the pleasure of Shabbos, the delight of Shabbos, Oneg Shabbos, and also another time during the week, as that's the common Ona, the common obligations to each other, or the wanting to be together. And so the standard other night of the week would be, if it's Shabbos, it would also be Tuesday night. In any case, so the Gemara says, Egras bas machlas, because it is a time of Egras, the daughter of Machlas, some spirit. And there are 10,000, meaning 180,000 angels that were created from misdeeds, and so they are angels of negativity that go around with this spirit called Egros Bas Machlas. And each one of these 180,000 angels created from misdeeds have an ability to damage on their own. Now, first they used to be hang around all day. Once she met Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa. Amra, she said to Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa, Amra lei, ilavdem mechrazan Allah barakia. If not that they announce about you in the heavens, Hizar Rabbi Chanina, be careful about Chanina on account of his great person that he is, great the deeds he does, on account of his great teaching in Torah. If not for that announcement in Shemayim, I would have injured you. Amar Allah, he said to her, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that I have that kind of power. Well, if that's the case, I decree upon you never to come through the Yishuv, through the inhabited lands forever. He said to her, she said to him, please, I beg you, leave something for me to come by. Shavak lo leila Shabbos leiravius. He said, okay, fine. Friday night going into Shabbos, and Tuesday night, meaning the night of Wednesday, halachic. So this, so that's why they're still around those nights. Now, v'sucha de zimna pagabe abaye, and a later generation, one time the spirits met Abaye. Amar lei, so she said to them, to Abaye, in lav the mechazir lach berakia hizar ben nachmeni v'taras. If not that they announce upon you nachmeni, that be careful about him and his Torah. Havasakantich, I would have endangered you. Amar lei, again, he said to her, I chashivna berakia. Whoa, if I'm this powerful in Shamayim, gazrani alaychi shalotaver yishuv loylam. Well, then I make a decree upon you that you don't walk through Yishuv, you don't walk through the inhabited communities again. So the Gemara says, wait, but we see that it does pass through. The Gemara says, Amehani, that's not them passing through, but rather Gizyasa Ninu, the Shamti Susya. It's just these angels running through the vineyards trying to bring back the horses that are run astray. So they're coming to bring them back. Now, I have no clue what any of that means, but I'm sure it was a lot of fun. We are now at the top of Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Aleph. Just one note, in the Gemara earlier it says Abaye encountered this set of spirits, and they said if not for the pronouncement that Nachmeni and his Torah are so great, and be careful with them, he would have been hurt. So really his name was Nachmeni, which means console, my consolation, consolement. As we saw earlier in the Gemara, that Abaye's mother, his father died while he was in utero, and his mother died at childbirth. So he was without parents at birth, and he was raised by a healer woman who was his mother, who he called Aim, his mother, and he was and by his teacher Rabbah, the great Rabbah. And so he was called Abaye, even though that his name was Nachmeni, my consolation, which is also a consoling name, but he was known as Abaye, which is an abbreviation for the pasuk, the verse that says, Asher Becha Yerucham Yasam, which is Abaye is the abbreviation for that, which means because it is in you that you, Hashem, that a orphan will find compassion, will be cared for. So that's what Abaye was. That's why he was known as Abaye. Amalei Rav Ravasi. So another set of rules or life lessons that were given from one of Chachamim to the other. So Rav said to Ravasi, don't live in a city that the horse doesn't neigh and the dog doesn't bark. In other words, you make sure that wherever you live, there are horses and there are dogs, because that's how you know when there's a danger, and they protect the city, and they will armies are more afraid to come in, and thieves less likely to come in. So that's the importance of living in a city that have horses and dogs. Don't live in a city that the mayor, the people in charge of the city, the person in charge of the city is a doctor, because he has more important things to take care of at all times than the city needs. Don't marry two women. Don't marry a second woman. So if you're married, don't marry another woman, because if you do, they're going to conspire against you. And if you do marry a second, you have to marry a third. And this is a metaphor for when you trust people, make sure that there's that they wouldn't be in a group of people that would conspire against you. That there's someone there that would speak up for you or come and tell you. Amalei Rav LeRav Kahana. Another teaching from Rav to Rav Kahana. It's better off to turn over roadkill than to switch your words. Be careful with your words. In other words, we see it's disgusting to deal with the roadkill and degrading to be the one to have to move it aside. It's much more so when you change your words. It is better to take a menial labor job, which may be degrading, rather than to at least you have a parnasa, rather than saying I'm a kohen, I'm a great person. This is degrading to me, so I'm not going to. And the specific thing he said was to skin the hides, to take off the hides off of roadkill in the marketplace. So even if it's a public job of less than perfect prestige, and the idea is that it is important to be self-sufficient and take care of yourself and your needs, and not to be too haughty. I remember my great teacher, who in the end was the senior dayan in Yerushalayim, Rabbi Yaakov Blau. He was when he started off, he was a great Torah scholar, but he wanted to fulfill this Gemara, and he became a plumber. After a few months, people said, this is degrading for someone as great a Torah scholar as you, and so he became a banker instead. But the idea that it doesn't make a difference what the work is, but to rather the main thing is to be self-sufficient and care for yourself, and not be not put yourself on the community. It's a tremendous obligation of achrayus. So that's Rav said to Rav Kahana, and he said, "Mei kari b'masa bezuze tusi kanafa." Even if gourd are 100 for one coin, so it's very cheap. Nevertheless, whenever you travel, make sure that you have some food with you. Amalei Rav LeRav Berei, and Rav said to Rav Chia, suddenly tishti sama. Sorry, I missed one line there. Salkas leigra sheirusach bahadach. When you go up to the attic, meaning anytime you travel, you go up to the attic, your food should be with you. And even if it's so cheap in the city, nevertheless, your food should be underneath your cloak with you. Amalei Rav LeRav Berei. And Rav said to Rav Chia his son, Lei tishti sama, don't drink potions, which essentially would become addictive. If it's addictive, you'll become addicted, and that's going to ruin you. And don't jump over puddles. Or this was about the manner to walk in public and walk over streams. And don't extract your molars, even if you're in pain, because those would heal, and it's necessary to have them. So don't be quick to extract the tooth just in pain. Don't enrage a snake, and don't enrage a non-Jew. Gimel Amos Kanamem. 3, you shouldn't really poke at them. Ve'elehe nachri katan, a non-Jewish child. Menachash katan, and a young snake. Ve'talmud katan, and a young student. My timer, the machusayo achore de udnayu, because their kingdom is just behind their ears. In other words, they're yet to grow up, but they'll remember what happened to them as a child, and they will remember you and come after you. Amar le Rav le Eva Berei. Rav said to Evu his son, Tarchibach b'shmaita v'lemistayim milson. You know, we work together hard so that you could learn Torah, and it's not working out. So ta agmarach mili d'alma. So come, let me give you some business advice. I'm going to tell some matters of the world. While the sand is still on your feet, meaning as soon as you come into town with the wares that you have to sell, sell it. No matter if you're tired or whatever, as soon as you come into a place with your wares, sell them off right away. Make the deal. And anything that you sell, you have a right to reconsider and say, you know what, I shouldn't have sold it so quickly. Maybe I could have made a bigger profit. Indeed, the markets went up. I could have held it. A seller's remorse. With all things, that's logical. In other words, sometimes be cautious when selling. Bar michamra. Besides with wine, no matter what, even if markets went up, wine is so volatile and it can go bad so quickly. Sell it. Don't have any qualms about it. Don't question yourself, because even if the market price went up, more people need the wine. You don't know if the wine would have still been sellable at that point. Shari kisech Pesach shakich. As soon as you make a deal, you first count the money and put it in your pocket, and then you open your wares to give to the seller. Kava mi'ara v'lekura mi'igra. It's better to have a small measure on the ground than a large measure, but it's up in the attic. In other words, do business closer to home where it's easier to make sure that you are making a profit. Even if it's less, if you think it's less than what you could get if you traveled far, but that's easier and better, and you can still have a family life. Tamra bechaluzach lebeis sudnaroyit. You have some dates in your basket. Well, run to the press to make beer, to the brewery to make beer out of it. Vad kama, and how much? Amarav atil sisa. This is up to 3 sa. Amar Papa, Ilay dera meshichra, loy eatri. Rav Papa said, if not for me learning how to make the best beer around, I would not have become wealthy. If not learning how to brew. Some say that Rav Chisda is one that said, if not for my learning to brew beer out of dates, I would not have become wealthy. My sudna. What is the word sudna, which is the word for brewing? So they're going to do a play on the word. Rav Chisda said sudna. It is sudna. It's a wonderful secret. Know how to do it because it makes some person wealthy. And it brings to great care for others. Amar Papa kol agav gavia bai. So everything in wealth, you have a lot of money, you have a lot of potential for money, but it's really hard because all documents still have to be collected upon. So you may have on paper a lot of wealth, but number one, you still have to go out and get the money. And kol ashray safek lo, any loan, there's a question whether or not it'll ever come. And even if it does come, the money that you get is the worst coins. In other words, you can end up with a lot of payment, but the coins have a lot of the silver already rubbed out. So it's today money is only whatever it says the face value. But back when, the coins were actually silver or copper or gold, and the more it had changed hands, the less valuable the coin was because some of the silver had been rubbed off. And but it was still a coin that was over lasech. It was still something that you can exchange in purchases, but they were increasingly become less and less good. And so when somebody pays back a debt, he'll give the coins that are just at that line where they're still they can still pass as the coin that it was minted to be, but it really is already diminished greatly. And so you get payment finally after working hard to get repaid and collect on these documents, and you don't even get, and what you get is bad money. Now, 3 things that Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of the people of Yerushalayim. It's better to save your life and be be a coward. So when you go out to war, be the last one in line. And this way, when you have to make an escape, you can run back to the city, and you'll be the first one back in. Don't need to rely on others for Shabbos, like Rabbi Kiva said to his son. Rather, even if you don't have money, make a lesser Shabbos meal so that you don't have to borrow or take tzedakah. And as we saw earlier, also do business with someone who is being successful, because that will pass on to you as well. There are 3 things that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi said in the name of the people of Yerushalayim. Don't hang out in visibly to people while bathing, or be on the roof and do your private things, because of the story that happened, in reference to David and Bathsheba. Bitcha bagra shachrer avdecha v'tein la. If your daughter has become of marriageable age, then it doesn't matter who, even your own servant, emancipate your servant and give him to her, to your daughter, to marry. Be careful about your wife when you have your first son-in-law. My time is. So what's the reason? So this was the statements that the people of Yerushalayim would say, and Rav Chisda now explains. My time, Rav Chisda says that they could have an affair. First son-in-law and mother-in-law may be attracted to each other. Rav Kahana Amar Mishum Mamit. Rav Kahana says, no, it's because that she's going to be buying him gifts and spend all your money to make him like her. Havahava Isnu. And Gemara says, and in actuality, both of these are I don't know how common it was, but at least exist. There are 3 that inherit the world to come. Hadar be'Eretz Yisrael. Somebody lives in Eretz Yisrael. Living in Eretz Yisrael is tremendous mitzvah, as well as has a lot of kedusha, and it's a special merit. So you inherit the world to come. Somebody who raises their children to study Torah also takes a lot of toil and difficulty and dedication, but it results in the world to come. And somebody who has Havdalah on wine, Matzah Shabbos. Mahi. What does that mean? The Meshayir Mikidusha Havdalta, somebody that doesn't have a lot of wine and leaves over some of the Kiddush in order to be able to make Havdalah. There are 3 that Hashem makes a pronouncement about their strength in every day. About a single person who lives in a large city and doesn't sin. There's a lot of opportunity, and is a single person, and nevertheless keeps themselves. And a poor person who returns a lost item to its owner, even though that they could use it really. And about a wealthy person who when he tithes his produce, he does so in private. He does so in private, not to not to stick it to people that can't afford that much. But also, when you do something in private, you see, not so meticulous. Nobody's watching, so you don't have to look that great, right? So somebody's tithing, and everybody knows how much money he has or how much produce he produced that season. So he gives that large amount of tzedakah. Everybody understands. But when people tithe and nobody knows what they had, and so they could give, instead of 10% of what they had, they could give 5%, and it still would look good. And they give the full 10%. Nevertheless, that's a great tzedakah. Rav Safra, Rav Kava, Bekrach Hava. And Rav Safra lived as a single person, as a bachelor in a big city. And when he heard this teaching, he was happy about it. Now the Gemara goes to Kuf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. Tani Tanaka made the Rabbi Rav Safra, and it was taught. This teaching was taught in front of Rava and Rav Safra. Tzalv upon of the Rav Safra. Rav Safra was lit up because of this teaching. It says that Hashem pronounces His greatness every day. Amalei Rava lav kagenmar. Rava said to him, "Oh, don't worry about it. It wasn't referring to you. Elakagenim Chanina Rabbi Shaya. It's referring to Chanina Rabbi Shaya. You hang out in the academy all day studying. You don't have an opportunity to sin. But it's talking about Rabbi Chanina Rabbi Shaya, who work in the marketplace as shoemakers. They have a ushkafi ba'arad Yisrael, because they were shoemakers. They were cobblers in Eretz Yisrael. So it's odd that it would say over here Eretz Yisrael. So they were cobblers in the marketplace. And they were in the marketplace, and there were harlots there, and the harlots would come by. And they would come by and ask them to fit their shoes on them. And when the harlots would come in, they would look at Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Shaya, and in other words, try and flirt with them. And they wouldn't lift up their eyes to look at them. They looked at their shoes, looked at their feet, looked at their shoe size, and that was it. And this is in their merit, to their merit, people, when they wanted to say an example of great people, they want to take an oath in the trustworthiness. Trust me, I swear, as good as Rabbi Shai and Chanina were. So Rabbi Rabbanim Kadisha Ba'arad Yisrael, they would say, like these holy people, Rabbi Shai and Rabbi Chanina. The Gemara continues and says, Shloisha HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ohavim. There are three that Hashem loves them, meaning that they get blessing on account of what they work. Misha Eina Kayis, somebody who contains themselves and doesn't get angry. Misha Eina Mishtakir, somebody who contains himself and doesn't get drunk. Misha Eina Mamin Amidosav, and somebody who doesn't demand what is rightfully theirs. Shloisha HaKadosh Baruch Hu Saina, and there are three that Hashem shows them distaste. Hatred is the way the Gemara says it. I mean, it's a show of their actions are not approved. Somebody who speaks with their mouth in one way, but their heart is very different. So there's sly trickery when they speak. And somebody that can testify for someone else, but holds back that testimony. And somebody who knows something about another person, dvar erva, meaning something that would pertain to their marriage or to their status, and they testify, but as an individual. Now, there's nothing that Beis Din can do as an individual because you need two witnesses. And they testify anyhow, which means that they eventually, that ultimately what they're doing is only spreading bad rumors. It may be true, but with only one person, without a second witness, there's nothing Beis Din can do. They come to Beis Din to testify. Like the story of Tuvia. Tuvia had done a sin. V'asa zigud l'chudei v'asabe, and Zigud himself came and testified alone without a second witness. Kamei Rav Papa in front of Rav Papa, nagdei l'zigud. So Rav Papa punished Zigud on account of is spreading this information without anything that Basin could do about it. Amalei Tuvia chata v'Zigud mingan. So he said, wait, Tuvia is the one that did something wrong, and you're punishing me. Amalei in. He said, yeah, the Torah says a single witness shall not stand up against the person. And you came to testify alone. You're just spreading bad information about him. It may be true, but it's not. It is unsubstantiated with one witness. You need two, and you're not doing anything. Amar Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Rav mutar l'sanasei. It is permissible to hate a person like this that has done any of these ills. Shenema, for it says, "Kisira chamer sanacha rivis tachas masay." The Gemara brings a proof from a very interesting place. The Torah says that if you see your enemy's donkey collapsing underneath its packages, its weight, that of all the laden packages on it. So there it says, forget your hatred for the person and help him out. Right, help this donkey up to its feet and to fix the weight so that it can carry. Now the Gemara analyzes, what does it mean? Your enemy, the person you hate. You see your enemy's donkey. Ki ma'aseh. What does it mean? The person you hate. Ilay masem nachri. We're talking about an enemy, meaning a non-Jew that hates you and you hate him. Vatanya sayna shamra said Yisrael. The Brisa says that this is talking about a Jew that you hate. So in what case is it talking about a Jew that you hate? What Jew do you hate? Well, I say Elapshita, Sani Israel. So it must be that it's talking about your brother, a Jew that you hate. Umay Shari Lamasani. And Mishari Lamasani, are you allowed to hate your brother, a Jew? It says, in Torah explicitly says, don't hate your brother in your heart. Ella, the Ikasadi, the Avadi Surah. Rather, there are witnesses that this person has transgressed these prohibitions, and there's a reason to hate him. And the hatred over here is not hatred to the person, but to their actions, and that's what it's talking about. So well, it must be, if that's the case, then everybody else also. Then it wouldn't be your son Acha, the person you hate. So Maishnahai. So why does it specifically say the person you hate? So rather it means that you saw something about this person and you don't have a second witness, and so you can't testify about it, but you know that they did something wrong, and so you distance yourself from that person on account of who they are or what they've done. Not only you're allowed to, but there is a mitzvah to distance yourself and act in anger with this person. Or act as if you despise this person. For it says, Yiras Hashem Sanei Ra, that the love for Hashem will bring about that there's a Sanos Ra, there's a despising that which is wrong and evil. When somebody has a great desire for that which is upright, and a connection with Hashem and for goodness, so then they have a great distaste for that which is wrong. Amar Ravacha b'reider of the Rav Ravashi, Ma'u l'meimer l'Rabbi l'Masani. Can you tell your teacher? So we're not talking about Beis Din, but can you tell the rabbi? Can you tell people that have an influence on this person, where you're not testifying in a manner of testimony that needs two, but you need to let people know that people of influence, people of connection with this person, so that that person can grow, or that person can be kept away from others. If you know that the teacher will believe you, like you two witnesses, which the Beis Din is obligated to believe, So if you know the teacher will believe you in that way, in other words, you can say it and they'll act on it and they'll work with it, lamely, then tell them. But if not, if you're just going to create havoc, but they're not going to trust you, and so now you're just creating a machlokes, but not actually fixing the situation. So don't say it. There are three people that, on account of their attributes, have a difficulty in life. Their life is going to be hard. Who are they? Harachmanim, people that are very compassionate. V'haraschanim, people that have hot temper. V'aninida, so people that are very particular, that are squeamish. Amar Rabbi Yosef Kula Isnubi. Rabbi Yosef says, unfortunately, I have all of these. I'm very compassionate. I'm hot-headed, and I'm very squeamish. There are three that hate their own kind. Dogs, roosters, and the Persians, I think the Zoroastrians, whatever they were. Some say also harlots. And some say also the scholars that were in Bavel. In Bavel, they were very their arguments were very strong when they argued in Torah, and so sometimes that became hard feelings as well. Three that like themselves, that like their own kind. Elohim hagerim, avadim, va'orvim. Gerim, both foreigners as well as converts, and avadim, servants, slaves, and an orev. Orev is the raven, blackbirds. What are they? Ravens, I think. Yeah. Arbain adasiv lesson. There are four that people have a hard time with them. Elohim, Dal Geya, a poor person that is very haughty. Now, people don't like haughty people, but they understand when someone is extremely successful at something that they're haughty, someone is very wealthy that they're haughty. So even though that people don't like that, but it is in a certain way expected or understandable. But when you have somebody that's doesn't have it and is haughty, it's very hard for people to deal with that. V'ashir mekachesh, and a wealthy person who doesn't pay up, who denies they owe things, they're skimpy when they owe. People have a hard time with that. Everybody else is struggling, and so they say, "Oh, I forgot. I didn't. I'm not sure I owe it." You sort of expect that, but you don't expect it from a wealthy person, and people get don't know what to do with it. V'zakein menaif, and an elderly person who has an affair. It's like what's going on? Uparnis mizgar latziba b'chinam, and someone whose job is to take care of the community, and so he does, but then makes himself so haughty and becomes sort of above and oppressive to the people without providing anything for them. And some say that also it's talking about someone who divorces his wife and then takes her back. People say, like, what were you thinking when you divorced her, and when did you take her back? They say that, for a second marriage, it's pretty good. But so what were you thinking to begin with? But Tanakama Zimnik Maruba. Tanakama says, no, sometimes it's just a practical thing. The child support, alimony is so expensive, it's worth it living together. Hinami, or they just for the shared custody, they have children together, so that's a reason. It's a practical reason to remain together. Chamisha dvarim tziva kanan as banav. Now the Gemara says that there are 5 things that Canaan, who was the son of Ham, and was cursed by Noach, Canaan commanded his children. However, the Rashbam says the meaning is that it's not that this we have a tradition. This was Canaan said, but it seems to be the custom amongst the Canaanites. So Egyptians and those are all Canaanites. So what do we see about that? Love each other, right? Stick with each other. Love theft, and they seem to be good at that. Love harlotry, and they seem to be good at that. And hate people you work for. That they seem to be good at that. And don't speak any truth. Yeah, those that remember the propaganda that the Egyptians gave out during the 6-Day War, how they were winning, may know a little bit about the lack of speaking truth. There are 6 things that are said about a horse, and therefore, even if you purchase the horse and find one of these things, that's just a typical part of it. Oyeves says nus, likes the harlotry. In other words, that they're always on the mares. And they love fighting. So they're always out that ruchay gasa, and they're very haughty. They're hard to tame in that way. Doesn't want to sleep. Always just nodding off. But eats a lot and doesn't produce a lot of waste. And also, it tries to kill its own rider in war. In other words, always bucking in its own authority. All right, so there's more over here. We'll continue with that. And as Shem, tomorrow we get finally to some of the Mishnayos of the Seder itself. Yashakach, everybody. Wishing you a great day.
Yashakach, Rabbi. Have a great one. Okay.